Yeah, so I got into fishing at a pretty young age. I actually grew up fishing up on Lake Champlain and a small lake over in Wisconsin where we have a family cottage. My dad and I had a little square eagle fish finder, and I had a really big passion for finding the weed lines, as we said it there. When I got into college, really didn't know about college fishing, and literally saw a little newspaper article when I was doing college onboarding about the Georgia Southern fishing team winning a major tournament, and said that's what I'm going to do. And always really had an attachment to technology. When I got into college fishing and purchased my first bass boat in my sophomore year, I knew that if I put the time in with electronics, I could probably be pretty successful or competitive in these tournaments. And my first bass boat was an 02 Triton. That first boat, when I had those electronics on there, I would turn the ignition over and the graphs would turn off. I'm a gearhead, I love working on vehicles. When I was in high school, I ran an audio installation business, did speakers, all that good stuff, which is where I learned a lot about DC voltage. I said, okay, need a bigger battery. Put a bigger battery in the boat, still didn't fix it. The first, you could say, Sonar Pros wiring harness was the orange extension cord. I cut the ends off of it and wired through that boat. Now, that's not the right way to do it, and that kind of led into the snowball effect of rigging buddies' boats, random people by word of mouth, and ultimately that transpired into me starting my company, Sonar Pros. I mean, ultimately what I've learned in my short years on life so far is don't be scared of a little bit of work. Putting in the work will get you some positive outcomes, that's for sure. I'm Trent Palmer, and this is my story. Yeah, so I got into fishing at a pretty young age. I grew up south of Atlanta, now live north of Atlanta, but I actually grew up fishing up on Lake Champlain and a small lake over in Wisconsin where we have a family cottage. Grew up smallmouth fishing, largemouth fishing with my dad and grandfather. Over time, that kind of transpired into getting a little bit more serious into fishing. My dad always said that I think since the age of 5, I started teaching him how to fish. Ultimately, into tournament fishing, I got heavy into tournament fishing in college. When I was in high school, there was not high school fishing, and sports were a pretty big passion of mine. Played basketball almost my whole life up till college. And when I got into college, really didn't know about college fishing, and literally saw a little newspaper article when I was doing college onboarding about the Georgia Southern fishing team winning a major tournament, and said that's what I'm going to do. And I can say ever since then, it's kind of been a downhill effect. Yeah, so when I was in college fishing, at least for me, even prior to college fishing, my dad and I had a little square eagle fish finder, and I had a really big passion for finding the weed lines, as we said it there, so I could try to catch big muskie or better largemouth, and always really had an attachment to technology. When I got into college fishing and purchased my first bass boat in my sophomore year, I knew that if I put the time in with electronics, because at the time really there wasn't much offshore pressure, I could probably be pretty successful or competitive in these tournaments. And my first bass boat was an 02 Triton. I put a Gen 1 HDS7 Lowrance and a Gen 1 HDS 10 Lowrance on that boat. Side scan, down scan, thought it was the slickest thing, which is funny compared to what we have now. Well, that first boat, when I had those electronics on there, I would turn the ignition over and the graphs would turn off. Well, prior to fishing, I had I'm very passionate about vehicles. I'm a gearhead, I love working on vehicles. When I was in high school, I ran an audio installation business, did speakers, all that good stuff, which is where I learned a lot about DC voltage. So when that boat had that problem with the graphs turning off, I said, okay, need a bigger battery. Put a bigger battery in the boat, still didn't fix it. Said, okay, we got a wiring problem. And the first, you could say, Sonar Pros wiring harness was the orange extension cord. I cut the ends off of it and wired through that boat. Now, that's not the right way to do it, but at the time, trying to be cheap in college, it worked. And that kind of led into the snowball effect of rigging buddies' boats, random people by word of mouth, and ultimately that transpired into me starting my company, Sonar Pros.
Tell me about the car. Talk about the car.
Yeah, so a dream car. So there's for me, cars are a big passion of mine. I love working on cars. A dream car of mine, there's 2 dream cars in my life, and it's either Mark IV Supra or a GTR. GTR's had a lot of different platforms. The R35, which is sitting next to me, is my favorite, and it was a dream car of mine. Bought that about 3 years ago. It was a really big life goal of mine. I know some people, save up. It's probably smarter to invest your money and save your money. For me, it was spend money on a dream car of mine. And 3 years ago, after working really hard and putting money aside, was able to work up and save to get one of my dream cars, which is what is sitting next to me. It's good fun. Get her set up real quick. Yeah, so this is a Sonar Pros harness right here. These are actually orders just from the past couple days. We can pretty much build a harness for whatever boat, year, make, model you have. Go to our website, Sonar Pros Electronics, and check out our harness builder. But it's pretty crazy to see, we've got robots that cut wire for us, and we have, 2 people dedicated just assembling harnesses. It's crazy to see that all this came from just an orange extension cord in college, and this is one of the things I'm most proud of, because this entire harness I designed in my garage per se, and to see it in a production sense now is pretty cool. So we're here on a Saturday, so it's not as hectic as during the week, but we do on average, I think last year we averaged 12.5 boats a week. There's some weeks that if they're big installs, we'll only do 5 or 6, or some weeks like this week where I think we did 15, 16 boats. Yeah, so Sonar Pros, we specialize in 3 main things. Number 1, we manufacture our own dedicated wiring harness that we use on our installs. We have retailers that carry it along with dealers, and you can order it from our website and install it yourself. It's a fully waterproof, dedicated circuitry, and it's a really great system to add to your boat. The second thing we do is we do high-end installs, so boat rigging. We specialize in doing multi-brand installs, single brand installs, but ultimately what we do at our installation shop is those pictures you see on the marketing material of how those graphs should operate, we do the install so it does operate the way it's supposed to. And then the third thing, we are a dealer for a lot of brands when it comes to accessories, electronics. So we're a dealer for BoatLogix mounts, Power Pole, Lowrance, Humminbird, Garmin, you name it, we carry it for your boat. Yeah, so after college fishing, had the big life change, got a corporate job up in Atlanta, which ultimately led me to moving up here by Lake Lanier. Loved the lake, and for me, didn't care about driving over an hour into Atlanta for work. But after college, tried to figure out where I still wanted to stay competitive with fishing. Started fishing BFLs, local tournaments, Toyotas, and found a little success there. I won a BFL. Made the Toyota Series Championship, had a top 10 there, qualified for an All-American. So really had a passion being competitive in those tournaments, but ultimately the biggest issue I ran into is those tournaments are great, 100%. It's hard to actually turn a profit in those series unless you're consistently winning, which for me, I always strive to win in a tournament, but my goal too is to be consistent. And ultimately found my way to, or last year, into the NPFL, which is, I guess you could say, is probably the first fully professional circuit I have fished. Have thoroughly enjoyed it. It's a great platform to get into the higher end of fishing, where if you do cut checks, you do well in tournaments, you win a tournament like we did this year, you can make some pretty good money and be competitive. I mean, it's been a great platform, and I still hop in some local tournaments and BFLs, but now these days NPFL is pretty much what I fish all year.
Raise it up to the sky, get loud folks for Trent Palmer, one go time. Stop number 4 champ here in the NPFL at Saginaw Bay.
Yeah, so the win at Saginaw, when the schedule came out for 2023, there was 2 lakes that I guess you could say were on the checklist. One is Saginaw, so last year in 2022, I got second by 4 ounces in that tournament. Really felt like I had figured out something in that lake that others hadn't, that would give me the opportunity to win. And unfortunately last year we had a little bit of a a front come in that kept me from getting to my primary area the second day of the tournament. So this year was really hungry to get out there. That tournament was a emotional roller coaster ride, you could say. Unfortunately, I had motor problems that restricted to me this year to how fast I could actually run and reliably run. And ultimately, after 2 days of battling it out with Patrick, day 1 and day 2, day 3, on our run in with a really good bag of smallmouth, had a really great day. I mean, I think right off the bat in the morning, pretty much put 22 pounds in the boat. My motor ended up letting go, power head let go. And Patrick, who was the leader going into day 3, had to bring me in.
He's got 42 pounds and 4 ounces, folks. He needs 20 pounds and 9 ounces to take the lead. 20 pounds, 6 ounces, your winner, Trent Palmer, the
We were first and second and ended up beating him by 2 ounces. So it was a heck of a week. It is one of the most unbelievable feelings, holding that giant check up, holding that shield up. It's definitely been a life-changing event for me. Not only from the fact of getting a big win like that from a monetary perspective, but it definitely opens the doors in the industry to kind of grow relationships further and kind of have that stamp like, hey, we're here to stay. I mean, ultimately what I've learned in my short years on life so far is it's all about what you put into it. Whether it's business, whether it's doing well in tournaments or whatever, the amount of work you put into anything, you're going to have a positive outcome. For me, kind of going through that life transition of growing through the ranks, tournament fishing, putting in the work, getting to the position we are now with NPFL, growing my business. The biggest thing I can say is don't be scared of a little bit of work. My friends, family, and girlfriend will attest to it. I have no problem working 7 days a week, whether it's for preparing for a tournament, working at the business, whatever it is, but ultimately putting in the work will get you some positive outcomes, that's for sure.